This is, however, about an affront to our democracy. An affront to what makes so many of us proud to be Americans. That we choose our own leaders. Not that they get to pick themselves. Not that they get to be picked by the President of the United States. The same president.
So I want to give you an update on the New York City mayoral election, because this week Zohran Mamdani and his allies are extremely pissed off after Trump allegedly is seeking to intervene in the election in a way that would sabotage Mamdani. Now, it's worth noting this is alleged, this is unconfirmed. Thus far, both Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa have denied that this is a real thing that's actually happening, but that has not stopped Mamdani from panicking and throwing a fit and really being worried that he's going to lose because of it. And this is the report out of the New York Times and other outlets that allegedly Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa are in talks with the White House in order to give them both jobs in the Trump administration, so that way they can drop out of the mayoral race. It's an incentive for them to do so, and that would of course allow the anti-Mamdani coalition to get behind Andrew Cuomo, who is the second placed highest polling candidate of the three people there, and give him a pretty strong chance of actually beating Zohran in the general election. Now, the great irony of all of this is you're about to see Mamdani go out and claim that this is an affront to our democracy, this is unfair, this is sabotage. But whatever you think of this maneuver, objectively, all it's doing is making it a far more fair election, right? That means you're actually going to have to win a head-to-head either majority or plurality instead of just cruising to a 20-point victory based on vote splitting, to which all of the socialists are going to run out here and say, see, look, we're the future. See, the American people support us because we won a divided election in a deep blue city, blah, blah, blah. And these people are actually really pissed off over the prospect that they might have to win a fair election in a real way, where you have to actually like appeal to the mass of voters, not just assume that your coalition is the least divided. So in today's video, guys, we will tell you all about it. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, so you can see obviously the headline, it's pretty self-explanatory, but Eric Adams, Curtis Sliwa, I've heard, is also involved in this, and the White House are allegedly in talks over a job in the Trump administration as pressure mounts for New York City mayoral candidates to sink Zohran Mamdani, according to sources. And what is this all about? Well, I want to explain the math here for people. And I understand, because I've gotten in a couple of arguments over this, that, you know, there are conservatives out there that are like, no, Sliwa all the way, Sliwa's going to win, I really believe things are changing. But look, say what you will, I'm giving you the truth right now. I'm giving you the reality, which is no, especially in a three-way race, Sliwa's not going to win, Cuomo's not going to win, Adams is not going to win. None of these people are, because the vote is frankly divided, guys. But before we continue this video, a quick word from today's sponsors, because we need to talk about the financial mess that is hitting Americans hard. It is arguably the most important story in this country, and it never gets talked about, which is the fact that we are currently in a record-breaking personal debt crisis. In Q2, total household debt hit just $18.39 trillion. That's about half of our entire national debt. Credit card debt has skyrocketed to $1.3 trillion. Some folks are juggling 25% interest rates, and Gen Z, my generation, don't even speak about it. We're currently in an average personal debt of $94,000, which is way above what had even millennials and Gen X dealing with. Guys, the system is not just broken, it's rigged. Big banks profit when you're desperate, and creditors win when you're stuck, but you don't have to play their game. PDS Debt is here to help you take back control. They've helped hundreds of thousands break free from credit cards, loans, and high interest traps. It's your money, your future, and it's time to fight for both. Here's why PDS Debt stands out. They go beyond the numbers, diving into your unique financial situation to craft a personalized plan just for you. No minimum credit score, no problem. They're focused on helping you save more, pay debt off faster, and keep your hard-earned cash in your pocket. And they're legit. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau with thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. You can go read them for yourself, of course. Always verify what we're telling you here. And that's because they've helped countless people like you get out of debt. Guys, judging by the statistics, someone out there watching this video probably applies here to you. So, full transparency, if I ever needed a service like this, and God forbid, PDS Debt is absolutely what I would use. They're the real deal. So you're now just 30 seconds away from starting your journey to being debt-free. Head over to pdsdebt.com/Vince for your free assessment and find the best option for you right now. That's pdsdebt.com/Vince. Don't wait. Take control of your financial life, your future, and frankly, your livelihood today. You can see the numbers right here, and some of the polls are showing slightly different things, but it's all basically the same estimation here. You can see this is a poll out of August, where currently you have Zohran Mamdani getting 42% of the vote, Andrew Cuomo 23%, Curtis Sliwa 17%, Eric Adams 9%, undecided here at 8%. So this is not rocket science, right? Which is to say, the coalition behind the anti-Mamdani movement does have more overall support than Zohran himself, but what's going on here, right? The vote is divided. Ironically, this is a situation that I would compare to the Russian Civil War, which is a great analogy, especially given this situation. And if you don't know the backstory there, the way the Soviet Union not just came to power, but held power was because of the fact that you had a big civil war, right? The Bolsheviks, the communists took power in the October Revolution, but guess what they were? Highly controversial, highly unpopular. So you had the Red Army, obviously, and the White Army. The White Army actually had more resources, more foreign support, more broad support within their own country. But what essentially happened? They fell apart. The communists, the Soviets, the Bolsheviks ended up winning. Why? Because the White Army was divided, right? You had Socialists a part of the coalition. Some were monarchists, some are Republicans. This is a big disjointed mess. And in the end, the Red Army took advantage of that division. Well, that's the same thing going on here, right? The Red Army is beating the White Army, not because the Red Army is the majority, but because the White Army is heavily divided. And so it really does boil down here, guys, to simple logic, right? It is New York City. It is a Democrat area. All Trump is thinking here to do is, well, if Cuomo's not a perfect guy, obviously, I have a lot of issues with him, but he's not Mamdani. And because of what the Democrat establishment essentially did to his family, and you hear the way Chris talks about Trump lately, I think there's a belief in the Trump world that Cuomo will at least sort of play ball, right? He won't really try to get involved or stand in the way of ICE raids or things maybe that the federal government wants to do, right? They can somewhat be working together, whatever, right? Not in a total sense, but just in a partial sense. And so if he's the second place candidate, which all the polls are showing, and you add up the Sliwa vote and the Adams vote, and that would allow the passing of Mamdani in that situation, then this is what ought to happen, right? And by the way, again, I'm going to say this, so long as you have the vote splitting, I don't care if you're the biggest Curtis Sliwa supporter, so long as the vote is split, obviously, we know what's going to happen. Mamdani's going to win with still a minority of the vote, but that is, of course, the math, right? Because you can see this is what it looks like when it's this four-way race. Guess what happens when it's head-to-head? When it's combined into a two-way race, there are varying accounts. Some polls show that Mamdani would still win, but it's a very close election. But you see ones like this out of late August showing that if this does become a head-to-head race, Cuomo would beat Mamdani. Certainly, that's the point at which it becomes competitive, right? We actually have a chance to stop Mamdani if you all get behind one candidate.
Bill, good afternoon. New York City billionaire and supermarket CEO John Catsimatidis says he spoke to President Trump on Sunday and that the president told him he wants to see mayoral candidates drop out of this race by the end of the next 10 days. Catsimatidis telling our Stuart Varney that essentially he believes the president will intervene further in this race in September.
President Trump is from New York. He's a New Yorker. He loves New York, and he's concerned. I believe that things will happen in the month of September, that something will happen. I am confident.
The White House reportedly believes that the only way to stop Mamdani from winning is for current New York City Mayor Eric Adams and Republican Curtis Sliwa to drop out and consolidate support around former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's been polling consistently in second place. The New York Times reports the Trump administration officials are discussing offering Adams and Republican Sliwa positions in the administration if they drop out. Politico reports Adams, who's polling last, has been offered a job at the U.S. Department of Housing. Both Adams and Sliwa today denying all the reports and insist they are not dropping out.
I've never asked for a job with HUD. I've never been promised a job with HUD. I have not communicated with the president. What I must do is what I've always have said. Stay focused. Don't be distracted by all this sensationalism. Run our city, keep it safe, and run for re-election.
You can't bribe me. You can't lease me. You can't rent me. You can't motivate me to lead this race. I am running as the Republican candidate.
So with all of that in mind, you can take a look currently at the odds out of Polymarket. Eric Adams, who before was only at like a 28% chance of dropping out, those odds have now risen to 65. So ultimately, we'll see what happens there. But nonetheless, whether or not this plan does indeed go through, that has not stopped Mamdani from having a meltdown about it. Take a listen here today as he held this, yesterday I should say, as he held this big news conference talking about what Trump is allegedly, we don't even know if this is true, right? But allegedly here doing, and the excuses, needless to say, are flying off the charts.
Not that they get to pick themselves. Not that they get to be picked by the President of the United States. The same president who detained a 6-year-old girl from a New York City public school system and took her hundreds of miles away. The same president that cut SNAP benefits from the hungry.
Right, so you can clearly tell Mamdani is panicked. He's worried about this for good reason, because the math in that situation, if you get behind one candidate, especially if that's Cuomo, because if it's a deep blue city, you know, he's the Democrat, but maybe he'll gain some protest votes against Mamdani from the other side. Okay, then he understands the precarious position that puts him in. And just yesterday, as he went on MSNBC, you're about to hear a lot more of the meltdown here and the excuses. And I find it to be pretty hysterical, because they're saying that this is a threat to democracy, when in reality, this is making it more easy to have actual democracy, right? Because now you're actually doing, if it's a head-to-head, it becomes down to a popular vote of the people, not just the fact that you're taking advantage or you're manipulating a victory because of vote splitting. So that said, take a listen here.
All this news on a very busy day is the Democratic candidate for New York City Mayor, Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. It's good to have you here. Nice to meet you in person for the first time.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So what do you think about all this?
I think it's outrageous. And I think oftentimes in a race such as this, it's tempting to think of this solely in the question of how does this impact the race? But this is an affront to our city's democracy. This is an affront to the values that make so many of us proud to be Americans, that we could choose our own leaders, not that our leaders pick themselves or their friends. And we're seeing in this time when Donald Trump has taken SNAP from hungry New Yorkers, has passed legislation that would throw millions of New Yorkers off their health insurance, that we have Democrats in Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams working with this administration to try and subvert the will of Democratic primary voters right here in New York City.
Is there some...
So you hear it, right? Again, it's an affront to democracy. How dare they do this? Well, in that case, Mamdani, if you want to subvert the will of Democratic primary voters, isn't that what Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo are both currently doing? Because Adams didn't try to run as a Democrat. He was running as an independent. Cuomo did. He lost. They're still staying in the race. And guess what all of that division is doing? It is, of course, benefiting you, right? But no, the affront to democracy is when we make the election more fair. The affront to democracy, guys, is, of course, when you have to win a true majority, not just a fake vote split minority. Okay. And apparently, by the way, trying to take Donald Trump off the ballot, that was not the affront to democracy. Trying to indict him and throw him in jail, that's not the affront to democracy. But by trying to get someone to drop out of the race which, by the way, has happened several times, right? The Democratic establishment in 2020 used this heavily against Bernie Sanders, for instance, because Pete Buttigieg and others, they dropped out to coalesce behind Biden. Elizabeth Warren stayed in to keep splitting the vote from Bernie. But that's, it's shady, sure, but that's also how it works, right? Why are you so scared of a head-to-head election where you have to actually win a popular majority and win the true will of the people? Well, like I said, it's like the Russian Civil War, right? You're a minority power just trying to rely on the division of the majority against you to claim that you now have this mandate to rule, when in reality you don't. And that's what's going on.
Is there a Democratic argument that there's some problem with this split field of 4 candidates that ends up with a person being the mayor of the city with 40% of the vote? Like, is there, because we have, we had the ranked choice voting in the primary, which I think is an important thing. You've now got this very weird situation where the next mayor might win 35, 40% of the vote. And there's a question about what that would mean for that mayor's representative ability in the city.
I don't think any of those questions are motivating Donald Trump or
that's fair.
Thinking about the actions that they take.
So you can see he's just going to deflect from Trump. But no, it really is a serious question. Because you progressives are about to run out and say that this is a historic victory. Zohran Mamdani has a mandate. This is proof that we're not just the future of the Democratic Party, but the future of America as a whole, blah, 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 this, and that. But you only won 40% of the vote. 60% of the city voted against you. So again, that's why I asked Mamdani, why are you so scared of a head-to-head election? If you win the head-to-head election, then fair enough. But I'm just saying there's a serious logical flaw in saying that, it's anti-democracy to have candidates drop out when they're splitting the vote that is supposed to be voting against you. See the manipulation of language there?
And I think that if this was just a question of, am I going to face 3 candidates or 1 candidate, I wouldn't have concerns. I'm just as confident of beating Andrew Cuomo today as I was yesterday. My concern, however, is what these so-called leaders are willing to give up in the name of securing power. That is why so many New Yorkers are turned off by our politics, because they see no relevance of their struggles in the conversations that are taking place.
There's reporting over the summer that there was a phone call between Donald Trump and Andrew Cuomo, previously undisclosed, reported by the Times August 6th, that Trump spoke about the race directly with Cuomo, an old associate and foil, according to 3 people briefed on the call who were not authorized to discuss it. Andrew Cuomo denies that they talked about the race. Is your read on this situation that Trump is pulling for Cuomo?
Absolutely. And I think Trump is making that very clear, that this is his choice for mayor of New York City. It's Andrew Cuomo. And he's willing to use every single tool and tactic at his disposal to try and assist Andrew Cuomo in that same pursuit. And what we're seeing right now is to offer and consider positions for 2 candidates in this race to try and make this one-on-one. It shows just how threatened he is by what our administration would be, which is a fulfillment of the thing that he ran on but has since betrayed, which is a promise of a more affordable life for Americans.
No, actually, let me correct you there. Nationally speaking, in a cynical sense for the midterms, you're going to be a great asset to Republicans if you win the mayorship. I think the very reason why Trump is passionate about this, he's trying to get involved, he's trying to stop you from winning, has nothing to do with like a political statement. Probably the fact that he is from New York and he just cares about his city and he's trying to save the everyday people from the nightmare, the crime-infested, crazy nightmare that you're going to bring New York City back into. That's actually how simple it is. Now, that said, okay, so if this is what he's doing, I don't even see what's so wrong about it. Because that's normal politics. Hey, drop out of the race, I'll give you a political appointment. Like, it's pretty standard, honestly, right? Many people, for instance, leave office to take, at the mayoral level, at the congressional level, to take jobs in a cabinet. It's not really all that different, right? But the big thing here is that, you know what a dirty trick would be? To try to blackmail you, Mamdani, to get you out of the race. That's what dirty politics looks like, right? Or I don't know. To bring a completely fraudulent civil fraud case against you to try to bankrupt your campaign and make you pay out millions of dollars right before an election. Or heck, try to throw phony political criminal indictments against you to try to get you to also drop out of the race or damage your image. Trump is not doing any of that. All he's trying to do is say, hey, Let's make this a fair head-to-head election. And that's what you're so pissed off about. So just understand, Mamdani, this can go a lot deeper, but he's not doing that. You know, he's doing something incredibly reasonable. And, you know, these people are frankly scared that even in a deep blue city, they're about to find out they're not the actual majority of people. So, but anyways, with that said, guys, I would love to know your thoughts on all of this, because I'm sure even Trump's alleged decision, if it's even a true story, is going to be controversial with some people, right? I know there's some people who are going to say, no, Curtis, keep the race the way it is. But the way I see it, he's just trying to be the most pragmatic. He's the most realistic. Now, of the three anti-Mamdani candidates, is Cuomo probably my least favorite? Sure. But I understand this is New York City, not Miami-Dade, Florida, or somewhere where, you know, things can really be all that different. So, you know, frankly, it is what it is. Either way this goes, if Adam, Sliwa, and Cuomo all stay in the race and split the vote, then Mamdani's going to win with 40%. The progressives are going to say, oh, we have a big mandate, even though we don't. New York City is going to be in an unfortunate position, but at the same time, well, you know, maybe people have to learn certain lessons the hard way. I don't know. But it would be nice, frankly, to see an actual fair election and not just this divided, you know, chaos, essentially. But so that's why I say, I think if Trump is doing this, that's a very smart thing. We'll see if Adams responds to it. We'll see if Sliwa responds to it. One of them, maybe none of them, who knows. But it's very clear to me that Mamdani is just already freaked out about the very idea that he might have to win a fair election. Because thus far, he's been writing this whole concept that he's going to be able to just cruise. He's not going to have to work. Well, now you're going to have to work for it. And now you're going to have to really truly try to win a majority. So there you have it, guys. That said, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.